All right, we're going to call this regular meeting of the Village of Villa Park Planning and Zoning Commission to order. We're going to start with a roll call. Jason Jarrett, not here yet, but we expect him tonight. Mike Orlowski.
Here.
Vince Gatto, not here yet, we expect him. Ken Jackson.
Here.
Dan Hansen.
Here.
Linda Bellows.
Here.
And we have a quorum. First agenda item is approval of minutes for February 12th, 2015. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 12th, 2015.
Motion. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call. Mike Orlowski.
Yes.
Ken Jackson.
Agree.
Dan Hansen.
Yes.
Linda Bellows.
I wasn't there.
Okay. So you're not voting. And I wasn't there either. So we may need to table this one and come back to it when we get some more members here this evening. So we'll
Squishy feet.
oh, there's Mr. Gatto is joining us at 7:40.
Sorry, I'm like this. Good to see you.
Yeah, still not enough. Okay, so we're going to move on into our public hearings for this evening. The first hearing this evening is petition PZ 15-0002, rezoning to C3 for property located at 420 West Stone Road. Richard Pasaglia is the petitioner. Is there someone here representing the petitioner?
Good evening. My name is Mary Dixon. I'm an attorney, and I'm actually representing our RDP Corporation, which is the owner of the property and the petitioner. But Mr. Richard Pasaglia is with me this evening. He's the president of the corporation, and thank you for having us before you this evening.
Could I interrupt for one second? So let the record show that Commissioner Jarrett joined us as well. Secondly, is there anyone else representing the petitioner who's going to speak this evening?
No, just if you ask any questions of Mr. Pasaglia, he will, but otherwise it will be me presenting the case for him.
Okay, so if you think you might say something good, let's go ahead and stand up now and get sworn in, and then you'll be ready to go in case you need to add anything.
You can, from there is fine.
From there is fine.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So please state your address, and then you can go. You already stated your name, so and then, sir, if you get a chance to speak, then you would state your name and address before you speak. But for now, you can be seated if you want. Thank you.
Again, my name is Mary Dixon. I'm a lawyer with the law firm of Bond, Dixon & Associates at 400 South Knoll, Unit C in Wheaton, Illinois. I do represent this evening RDP Corporation, which is located and owns the building at 420 West Stone in Villa Park. This evening, we are seeking a rezoning from C1 Convenience Business District to C3 Service Business District. I know you have the materials that we tendered to the village in support of our request, so I won't belabor the point, but I'll highlight a couple of things there. The property is located at 420 West Stone Road, which is 1 block south of North Avenue. The building itself is a 1.5-story building, which has the ability to house 5 office warehouse tenants on the first floor and 7 office tenants on the second floor. The property was acquired by RDP Corporation in August of 2002. At the time they acquired the property, they did have the village review the building for compliance with all of the village codes, and were told that it was fully compliant. Certain of the tenants that were in the building in 2002 remain tenants of the property today. It was only this year that RDP Corporation was notified that the tenancies of some of our occupants are not in compliance with C1 zoning relevancy. So we met with the village because we'd like to keep the tenants that we have and continue to secure tenants of like occupants. So to do that, we request rezoning to C3 Service Business Zoning. If you look at the property where it's located on your zoning map, Our building is the only C1 zone property in the area. Other properties located in the immediate vicinity are currently zoned C2, Neighborhood Business District, C3, which we request, which is your Service Business District, and M1 Light Industrial District. The allowance of the change in the zoning won't change any of the use in the immediate neighborhood. There will not be an immediate effect notice by any of the other occupants of the neighborhood because, as I say, certain of the tenants that we have now, we expect to remain there once we get proper zoning. In review of your staff report, your staff indicates that C1 is the village's most restrictive zoning commercial district, and it is a hurdle for our owner to be able to find tenants who want to be in this building, whereas we have had 2 or C3 use tenants who are interested, and we would like to gain full occupancy of the building. The rezoning to C3 would not be out of character for the location, and it would increase the number of permitted uses that we could bring into the building. Of course, a tenanted building is a good thing for the village of Villa Park. The property itself, as we have noted, and I hope you know from village records, has been a good neighbor to the area and a good neighbor to the residents of the village. We've not had any incidences where village personnel has been called to the building for any of our current occupants, other than one issue we had with the tenant that we resolved immediately upon notification. The rest of the material that I've submitted merely supports the request that we've made, and I have nothing further to add unless you have any questions relative to the building or the occupants. In which case, I may ask Mr. Poseidley to answer any specific questions you might have.
Thank you. Okay, we've had presentation of the petitioner, so now we'll move into staff input. Mr. Grill.
Ms. Dixon did a very good job summarizing the situation that exists at 420 West Stone. The building has been there for quite some time without any real issues that have arisen given their proximity to the residential to the west. I spoke to one of those residents today who had a question about the rezoning. The only thing she was concerned about was anything going to change. And at this point, I don't see anything that is going to change with the rezoning of this. There's some tenants in there that will conform with the C3 that currently do not conform, but they've been there for quite some time, and it hasn't been an issue. The zoning up there is somewhat unique. To have so many different zoning districts in such close proximity to one another, and certainly in this particular instance, given the nature of Stone Road more as a commercial and industrial type of use, and its proximity to North Avenue, staff would not object to this particular rezoning to C3. Additionally, this public hearing was properly noticed in the April 22nd, 2015 edition of the Daily Herald. And with that, I'll open it up for any particular questions the Commission might have.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to move into the next agenda item, which is public participation and questions. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak in regards to this petition this evening? Seeing no one. So we're going to move into questions from the Commission.
I have a question.
Yes.
What business is operating in there that's non-conforming, that would be conforming under C3? What does C3 open it up for?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, what are all the uses that are allowable uses in a C3 district? And I think
C3
Patrick's going to handle that.
Is our least restrictive zoning ordinance. Most of North Avenue happens to be zoned C3.
Okay.
Sure. Most of Roosevelt Road is zoned C3. It's more the auto-oriented corridors in town.
Okay.
Currently, in response to your question, Mr. Gato, we have current first floor tenants which provide home remodeling services and heating and air conditioning services. Those would be compliant with C3. They've been tenants of ours since we purchased the building in 2002, but we have been told as a result of recent activity that they are not compliant, and we simply wish to make all of our buildings compliant with your zoning code.
C3 doesn't allow for manufacturing, does it?
Other questions from commission members? I'm going to jump in a little bit. I guess I didn't realize that there's parking behind the building. I know that there's parking along Stone Road, but it looks like there's a parking lot behind the building. The service companies that you mentioned, the home remodeling and the HVAC company, the heating and cooling company, do they have larger trucks, and do they park them along Stone Road, or is that more the parking in back? How does that parking lot work, and how do you assign spots and places for tenants?
I'm Richard Pasalia. I live at 141 Palomino in Wheaton. The rear parking is more for the first floor warehouse tenants, and truck-wise, one guy has like 3 panel trucks. They're not huge, you know. He keeps them out there at night, overnight.
In the back or on Stone Road? Okay.
In the back. The HVAC guy, he may keep 1 or 2 trucks in the back and 1 or 2 pickups in the front, regular pickup type of trucks. And they're the only ones, you know, that keep trucks there overnight.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
I don't know if this is relevant, but it's kind of a curiosity question. On the north side on Stone Road, most of that parking is actually in the public right-of-way, correct?
That would be correct, yes.
So was there a taking a long time ago that because they're paved from, sidewalk all the way to curb?
I can't fully answer that question without conferring with the engineering department.
Okay.
But certainly, this particular configuration has been this way for quite some time.
Right. Yeah, we would typically want to see some, parkway as a buffer between Stone Road and your parking area, but I think the geometry and the space is just not adequate for that. But
Definitely. I mean, looking at this
yeah, it's not.
aerial, there's no room in there.
Yeah.
For
Yeah, I've seen people try to back out there.
And the only thing that staff would add at this particular point is, so long as the site stays exactly the way it is, we're comfortable. If anything were to change, then we could enforce the code requirements that exist at that point in time.
Okay. I think my only concern is that I think at one point, and I don't know if there's still a tenant, there was a tenant that had a bunch of service trucks, and they kind of all lined up there. Maybe it was prior to your ownership.
No, it was there. I kicked them out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that was always because it almost looked like an industrial use when you had all these large trucks sort of lined up there, whereas when there's just cars in front, it sort of looks more like a little office building or retail. And with the proximity of the building to Stone Road and the asphalt, wall to wall there, it's certainly much more attractive. And I don't know if you'd consider having some kind of restriction to your tenants that their service trucks are in back and your customer parking is in front, or any car parking would be fine, but just keeping the service vehicles around the rear, given the congestion and everything else on that site. That would be my only comment, is I wouldn't want to see it to shift again towards all the large trucks out front. And I take it you wouldn't either. Yeah. Okay. So that would be my only concern, and I don't know if we would have a condition or if that's enforceable or whatever, but that's the only thing I thought about when I
Well, that particular issue really becomes more of a code enforcement issue.
Got it.
And staying on top of it from a staff perspective.
Okay.
And staff would not like to see that situation either.
Okay. So great. So, and it sounds like we're all in agreement that that's not what we want to see. But otherwise, I mean, the rest of North Avenue is a C3. It seems to make a lot of sense that this would be C3. There's a little bit of R2 that this abuts, but it's been there for a long time, and obviously that any mitigation for those two uses coming together would have had to been resolved years ago, and but to be consistent with the North Avenue corridor, it seems like a good use. Now, I jumped into comments, but any other questions from commission members? I'm seeing none, so I'm going to move along then, unless anyone objects to any closing comments you'd like to make.
No, Mr. Wickers.
Okay. No closing comments. So, again, no one from the public wants to speak in regards to this petition. I see everyone shaking their heads no. So we're going to close the public hearing. Any discussion by commission members? So really, everybody's pretty much in agreement with staff's report, and hearing that C3 is really what we have all along North Avenue. This really is very much adjacent North Avenue. It's very consistent with that use, if not so maybe the several uses that all come together at this corner. It's a very odd spot in town, a lot of it because of the diagonal geometry of the streets. But it's very, very close to North Avenue. I think everybody's familiar with this site. You can see it from North Avenue. So
I also think the building will kind of limit, any
correct.
Well, the size of the parcel as well.
The size of the parcel, and I think that the big thing is the parking issue, and the owner is in agreement with us that he wants to keep it looking nice as well, and park the service vehicles around back. Staff will, watch it. So I think it's definitely something that I'll be voting to recommend, just because of its consistency with the rest of the zoning in the area. Any other comments? Okay. Hearing no other comments, is there a motion?
I will make a motion to approve petition PZ 150002 for rezoning from C1 to C3 for property at 420 West Stone Road with pen 0604114030.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, we're going to vote by roll call. Jason Jarrett?
Yes.
Mike Orlowski?
Yes.
Vince Gatto?
Yes.
Ken Jackson?
Yes.
Dan Hansen?
Yes.
Linda Bellows?
Yes.
And I too vote yes. With this, our recommendation passes to the village board. They can either accept, reject, or modify. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to move to our second hearing of this evening, which is petition PZ 150003, conditional use for property located at 207 East North Avenue. Steve Lemke is the petitioner. Is there someone here representing the petitioner? Okay. And I said your name right?
You did.
I messed up his, so. So same beginning as the last hearing. Please, you'll be sworn in, and then state your name and address for the record before you begin speaking. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Lemke. I own Elmhurst Auto Care on North Avenue. I'm here tonight seeking permission for a conditional use permit so that we may rent U-Haul trucks out of the existing auto repair facility. I think I've provided you with enough information. It's not all that complex. We're just looking for an additional revenue stream in addition to the auto repair shop. It's not designed to take it over, just to supplement it. And I'm not looking to make any big changes. The amount of revenue it'll generate certainly won't justify a big capital investment. There were some notes about paving the gravel lot in the back. That's not going to happen. We're going to use the existing paved area that we have. and make it work from there.
Okay. All right, and we can come back to you if we have any other questions. Thank you. We'll move on to staff input.
This request is for a conditional use for truck rental at 207 East North Avenue. That's along the south side of North Avenue near the intersection of Ellsworth. Property is zone C3, currently being used as a auto repair facility. The owner wishes to supplement that site and rent U-Haul trucks from this location. In looking at the request, staff looked at the comprehensive master plan and the character of North Avenue, which is a predominantly auto-oriented corridor. We feel that truck rental from this location is not out of character with North Avenue. The petitioner did present some areas where he wished to park the vehicles. Staff had concerns about the parking of vehicles up near the front of the property on the access drive. We also had questions about parking on the gravel area in back. Our code requires that if you're going to park vehicles, that they be parked on a hard paved surface. We didn't feel that the request itself was, again, out of character with North Avenue. But if the commission was going to consider approval, there are some conditions that staff would be suggesting be placed upon this request, and that is that the truck rental storage be limited to the paved portion behind the building, and that no vehicles shall be parked or stored in a manner that obstructs ingress or egress from the property, that no parking of vehicles with signage shall be permitted in front of the building along North Avenue, no outside intercom systems shall be used, that no washing or maintenance of vehicles or trailers shall occur in the parking lot, that the area where vehicles and trailers will be parked shall be paved and meet our stormwater requirements as outlined in the Public Works Departmental Correspondence Memo dated April 24th, 2015, which was attached to your packet, and that no signage be approved as part of this request, with the finding of fact that was stated in the staff memo dated May 6, 2015. Additionally, this particular public hearing was properly noticed in the Daily Herald edition April 22nd, 2015. With that, I'll open up to any questions the commission might have.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move to public participation and questions. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak in regards to this petition? Seeing absolutely none, we are going to move to questions from commission members. Questions from commission.
Based on this picture at the end, it appears we already have a lot of things parked there. Boats, semis.
That's been a storage lot since before I moved in, and that's what's back there is just vehicles that are being stored.
How can those be parked there if you can't park trucks there?
Are you addressing myself or? Oh, well, apparently the way the code is written, the rental trucks would be off-street parking, which needs to be paved. The items that are in that back lot seldom move, so they're just being stored there. The way I understand it is that's the difference.
That's the difference, the storage versus parked.
Patrick, what's your understanding on that issue?
The staff perspective in this was he's asking for a conditional use.
Right.
That conditional use gives us latitude in what we can require and ask for. And since he wants to do something on the property that currently is not allowed, that if he were going to use that area in back to store the trucks, that he would have to pave that lot. Staff cannot pinpoint when exactly that went in, but it was not included as part of his request for the truck rental.
Okay, so was it included as part of when the business was originally established?
I would have to research that. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, Because in this district, we don't allow exterior storage, correct? I don't think we do.
There's a difference between whether or not it's associated with the existing use or stands on its own.
Right.
But certainly, outdoor storage is permitted
Okay.
as a conditional use in the C3.
Okay. But this property doesn't have, or does it, was this a conditional use when it went in as an auto repair, or it probably went in as something different?
It would have had to have had a conditional use for auto repair because that's a conditional use in the C3 district.
Okay. So it would have been conditional use, and so we'd have to go back and look and see if outdoor storage was agreed to as part of that conditional use.
Correct.
Okay.
I think you'd have to go back to the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah,
It's
before
been
me.
like that ever since.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been that way for a long time.
Okay. So, other questions?
How many trucks and trailers did you plan on?
The number varies from 0 to 5, 8, 10. They move in and out constantly, so there's never really any set number. It's as they get dropped off, they get turned around and rented back out.
I guess I'm just curious. I'm very familiar with the lot. So with, your contract with U-Haul, is there a certain amount of trucks that you have to be able to take?
No.
I have a question. The south end of the property where you're on Schiller with the residential across the street, just out of curiosity, what kind of screening is there currently there? Is it chain link fence? Is it
It's chain link fence.
is there any landscaping? Probably not. I know that area, but it's
There's
just
apparently some easement with brush.
Yeah.
That's in between there.
The sign that's shown in our packet, is that the current sign that's up?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you mentioned that there's no signage included as part of Patrick.
That is correct. That's a separately permitted item.
Okay. So we're
And
not.
either he meets, when he applies for the sign permit, either he'll meet that or he won't.
Okay. So he needs to apply for a signage permit.
Correct.
Okay.
We weren't going to accept an application for a sign permit for a conditional use that had yet to be approved.
Understood. Thank you. So staff read off some conditions. Are you in agreement with those conditions?
Yeah, we're okay with that.
Okay. So you won't park any of the U-Hauls in front, and that, as shown on your site diagram that you
Right.
submitted.
The way I understand it now is it's a signage zoning issue. So I get it. It's a little disappointing, but it's a good advertising tool for us. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Okay. How about other? Are you concerned if you have U-Hauls back here where your customers are going to park, or do you have enough upfront parking for that?
No, there really isn't much upfront parking.
Okay.
We typically, over the years, have used my neighbor's parking lot at Stratz. The back of his lot is normally empty all the time, and that's been my overflow parking for the last 15 years. So.
Okay. So you'll have a parking problem if you are full of U-Hauls and you have a falling out with your neighbor.
It's possible, sure. Sure, but I mean, the only way to get around it would just be to limit the number of rental vehicles. I mean, we still have to be able to run the existing business. As I said before, it's designed to be a supplement.
Right.
So,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess it's going to be sort of self-limiting because there's, it's not like you're going to be able to park your customers along North Avenue.
right.
So, okay.
I have a curiosity question. Isn't there currently a U-Haul, I guess, depot a few doors down? Or did they close up? My memory serves me correctly.
It wasn't a U-Haul, but it was a rental, and they're
Okay.
gone.
Okay.
And I want to say, if you look at the amount of space that he's looking to park trucks, it's almost equivalent to what the U-Haul or the rental place down the street had as far as parking.
Yeah, there wasn't much out in front of
Right.
Auto Pool.
Okay. Questions? Other questions? Okay, I'm going to move on then. Any closing comments you'd like to make, sir?
No, we're just looking to supplement the existing business. I was approached by U-Haul several months ago, and I probably should apologize for doing this backwards because the U-Haul trucks are already there. But I honestly
I gathered that from the sign.
And the trucks.
yeah, it's kind of hard to hide them. I never really thought there would be a zoning issue. I just considered it automotive, use. So it never crossed my mind that there would
Sure.
be a zoning issue or a conflict. So my
Okay.
apologies there.
We appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Again, no members of the public wishing to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Discussion by commission members.
I don't think the condition's going to be necessarily any more intensive in terms of the neighbors to the south than what's going on there now. The site's really tight on parking, it appears to be, but I don't know what the requirements for that would be. And I mean, how frequently do you use that overflow parking from your neighbor? I mean, as it stands now.
Typically, on a daily basis, we park our personal cars over there and leave the lot open for our customers.
In this area on North Avenue where you had highlighted for truck parking, and I know that the conditions say that there would be no truck parking there. Is that actually used for vehicle parking? I mean, do you guys park cars there like during the day when you're...
We typically park cars there towards the end of the day for our customers to pick up.
Okay.
So they don't have to trudge back to the back parking lot.
No, I think that's all in your property, I believe, right? You're not in the right of way there? Because there's a property line here.
Yeah. So it's on the right. Okay.
A lot of the properties near you, North Avenue right of ways have been chopped off by IDOT.
Really?
So a lot of their front parking is actually IDOT's property. And so we attach additional conditions to that about what can be parked there, making sure you have permits with IDOT and so on, but it's not a problem for you. So
Okay. Any other comments by commission members? Discussion?
I'll make one comment. With all the U-Haul issues that we've had over the last couple of years, I would say this would be one of the fitting ones.
sure beats the Prairie Path.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would rather, this is where we've kind of said we would like to see them.
Yeah.
So I have no issue with it.
And the property is already being used to store boats, trailers, trucks. Paving it and having it somewhat codified might be useful.
Well, just to be
That's
clear, though, that
It doesn't. I know it doesn't codify the storage, but
right, and the gravel lot isn't going to be changed.
yeah, the gravel lot is being changed, isn't it?
No.
Isn't that one of the conditions?
No.
Oh, it's not.
No, only if you
No.
want to park.
Oh, only if you're going to park
Only
trucks
if he
there.
wants to park there.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to remain.
So you're
just
not going
as
to
it
park
is.
trucks there.
But he's not going to park U-Haul
U-Haul
trucks
trucks
there.
there.
Rental truck.
Yeah.
And I think we need to, I think we do need to look at. Staff is going to have to take a look at what the agreement is,
I
on
missed
what
the
the
nuance
conditional
of that.
use was, and what was approved or not approved. Because it may have been approved as outside storage on gravel lot, but it certainly wouldn't be today. We wouldn't approve that, and we've actually conditioned other properties up and down North Avenue that they could not do that. So that's why the questions all came from us.
I misunderstood that.
Does that change your opinion?
No, as long as he's not parking trucks on it.
Well, my biggest concern is that
That's an
it's a
enforcement
lot
issue
going
again.
on one little piece of property.
It is.
You know, you already got they're parking their own business cars across on the lot over there, but at the same time, like I said, it becomes self-limiting. If the neighbor kicks them out, either the overflow has to go in the gravel lot, which is going to get into an enforcement issue with staff, or it's always out in front of the business, which there's only so many cars that you could have out there, otherwise you'd be blocking the ingress. So, there's a big piece of asphalt along there. I mean, I think there's things that can be done, but the pressure just doesn't seem to exist right now. But in the future, and that's what I would say is just beware that, that staff's going to be looking at enforcing that you get into a situation where there's cars everywhere, or you're probably going to get cited because you've got a lot going on on a little piece of property. But in terms of the district and consistency, I think I don't have an objection to the use there. So, how about everybody else?
So he's got the fallback solution of paving the
That's correct.
back lot.
He's got a lot of lot. Just may need to pave it at some point. Okay.
Well, what trucks are back on the gravel lot right now? Are those U-Haul trucks?
No, those are
Just storage trucks?
yeah.
Okay.
Looks like RVs and stuff too. Okay, if there's no more discussion, we could do a motion.
I will make a motion to approve application PZ 150003 for the following zoning relief for Steve Limke. 1. Conditional use pursuant to Article 14.3.C.12 for truck rental for a property located at 207 East North Avenue, Pen 0603101028, with the following conditions. 1. That the truck rental parking storage shall be limited to paved portion behind the building. 2. No vehicles shall be parked or stored in a manner that obstructs ingress and egress. 3. No parking of vehicles with signage shall be permitted in front of the building along North Avenue. 4. No outside intercom systems shall be used. 5. No washing or maintenance of the vehicles or trailers shall occur in the parking lot. 6. Area where vehicles and trailers are to be parked shall be paved and meet our stormwater requirements as outlined in the Public Works Departmental Correspondence Memo dated April 24th, 2015. 7. No signage is approved as part of this request. With a finding of fact that such conditional use meets the conditional use standards enumerated in Article 6.11D of Appendix C of the Municipal Code of Village of Villa Park Basic Zoning Ordinance, and is outlined in the Planning and Zoning Memo dated May 6th, 2015.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any questions or comments on the motion as read? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call. Jason Jarrett,
Yes.
Mike Orlowski,
Yes.
Vince Gatto,
Yes.
Ken Jackson,
Yes.
Dan Hansen,
Yes.
Linda Bellows.
Yes.
I too vote yes. With this, our recommendation passes to the village board. They can either accept, reject, or modify our recommendation. Okay? Thank you. Okay. The next agenda item is discussion topics. And we have two for this evening. The first one is discussion regarding pre-application conference on a possible amendment to the PUD for the property located at 270 West North Avenue, North Park Plaza, The presenter is Mosaic Properties. And since this is discussion, we don't need to swear in and everything, correct? Yeah, it's just discussion. So please step forward, but please do state your name and address for the record, just so we have that.
My name is Sherwood Blitzstein. I live, our office is 555 Skokie Boulevard in Northbrook.
Okay.
And so my partner and I just bought, or about a year and a half ago, we bought the North Park Plaza. And since we purchased it, we put in about over $2 million worth of capital improvements, new roofs in sections, all new paving in sections, new pylon. We were able to get Foreman Mills, 65,000 foot tenant in what used to be the furniture values. We had to put a lot of money into that, and we think that's a substantial increase in quality of tenant that was there. And now that things are moving and we're getting some good vibes and reception in the retail community, we have gotten enough interest to build a strip center, which would be an out where we're currently, where it was the regional bank, which we demoed in the last couple months, and we plan on building about a 13,500 square foot strip center. It'll be all masonry. I think you guys should have an elevation of it. It's been broken up into sections to try to get it's a nice modern look. We think it will. We think it will also change. Will add to the change of the perception of the shopping center. It'll be a focal point as you come into the shopping center. Right now we are in, I guess, advanced discussions with Chipotle and with Dunkin' Donuts. Chipotle will be on the east, Dunkin' will be on the west. As you can see, we have a drive-through shown. We also, so that's about 4,000 feet, close to 5, and we're in middle-level discussions with another 4,000, 5,000 feet. So our reception's been really good, and we're really happy to get this far along with Chipotle, which we think will really change the whole perception of the center. Not as a bad perception, but so this is all masonry.
It's all right. It needs a change perception in that area. We get it.
Oh, we've been working
We're
on it.
all for it, changing the perception.
We've been working on it. So, and I think we've been.
I would agree.
So we've had discoveries. Almost all the tenants have extended their leases since we bought it. So we're very happy, and we've been working with Pat and we're working with Jan and trying to get as much out of the center as we can, and they've both been very helpful. And so we'd like to, I guess, any change. But then I have another. Okay, so first I'll get through the strip center. So I guess any change at all to the PUD needs an amendment, and I don't know if that's to throw in the drive-through. I think everything is basically out there, and you approve or don't approve it. On this, we'd like to get your reactions. We are doing drawings, and if all goes well, we can be in construction in several months. I guess you guys would probably be the last thing that we need to get approved, and then we'd be ready to go. So that's the strip center. So if you have questions or comments on what we're doing on this, love to hear it so we can change things accordingly or not. Not that we wouldn't change things.
Great. I think for me that you gave us an overall site plan that's the entire center. Mm-hmm. And then there's a SP1, sheet SP1, which is a drill down of the outlot where I think you're wanting to do the retail shops. So they're going to be right adjacent to the main, sort of that main turn in at the light at the signal.
I guess one other thing to clarify, we are pushing back as you go into the main access, the ring road, if you will. The access to that ring road from both the east and the west has been pushed back maybe, I think, 80 feet.
Okay.
So that's what,
Yeah, right here you could see.
Yeah, you can see
This
the
would go
curve. Yeah,
across.
it would just help us to have that sort of that larger picture
Right.
to get the context. Because as I look at the SP1, I can see that you've got a double-loaded parking lot there, and obviously that one doesn't exist
right.
on what the former bank was.
Right.
I'm just trying to get that depth makes me feel better that there's going to be some space
Oh, there's
between
one.
North Avenue and people will be able to see those shops and the signs and everything. It won't be so tight.
Oh, yeah, it's pushed back considerably. I apologize for not having it
That's
more
okay.
clear.
It's hard to match the two scales up when you're going back and forth.
And not that I would care if this center lost some parking, but
Yeah.
just to be clear, is there parking being lost off the south end when you push that road up?
Yeah, well, there's parking to be lost there, but then we're adding
Right.
75 parking spaces. So
I'm just trying to estimate like how
I would
far
say
you're
net
going north. more
Net,
than
there's
anything.
probably a loss of some parking spaces. I think I can't even tell you exact, but this is the least parked area of the shopping.
Well, and I think all of us have never seen that lot full, so that's why he
I've
was
never
saying
seen it half full.
I've never seen it half full. I think we don't really care if there's parking lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love
I guess-
it. I'd
We
love
have-
it if there wasn't enough parking.
We have 1,200 parking spaces.
Yeah, I think it's overparked.
It is. It's over. And it'd be nice to have some more green space, just in terms of. So that you came in for a conference, we're going to kind of tell you, we're going to give you everything that we're thinking, and
Yep.
whether or not you agree with everything we're thinking or not. But it would be great to have a little bit more green space there. And it's always the feeling is that it's just such a sea of asphalt. I think actually getting a building out there with some green space associated with it near North Avenue is going to make everyone's perception of your parking lot better. So I would even say, when I look at this site plan, and I don't know how far along you are, but if you could give yourself some more green space associated with this, I know you don't want to block the building with trees, whatever, but just even some more. It's so much hardscape there. There's so much asphalt. If there's a way to work in even grass or something along there, it would really soften, and I think it helps to feel like it goes up market as well, which is I think what you're trying to do. Right. So I think that may help you, and I think again, if you lose parking places no one cares. We know there's way too much. So those are some of my first comments. Long range. Are you looking at another outlet on the other side?
Yeah. Well, what we are, we're long-term corporate citizens of Villa Park. This is a property that we're going to keep in our families, I think, for a long time. So we're just we were increasing the tenancy, and we decided to start marketing the outpads. Got real good response, and our thought was, fill this outpad first and see what comes on the next one. I guess every change to the center is a
Right.
amendment, so we'll be before you.
Yep.
Hopefully, I guess our goal would be to have something going next year.
Great.
If it presents itself.
Right.
If it doesn't present itself, then it'll be a year and a half, 2 years, whatever. But I think it'll be next year, before you again for something. We actually had some interest from a medical user.
Okay.
So, you don't know when those things are going to happen, but
Right.
I was pleased with that too.
Okay. Yeah, a mixed use would work nicely. All right. So this is very informal since it's not a regular procedure, so anybody else can just jump right in. Sorry.
This is a minor question. It's kind of trying to help me visualize the whole thing in context. On the east end, it looks like the entranceway, that entrance driveway that runs east-west through the main central entrance, is that getting shifted north? Right?
It's going to be shifted north. We have to decide. We're going to have to decide to do it now or at some point. This might be the time to do
Right.
it. So you're talking about the
I'm talking. If you want, you can come up here. I'll just point it out to you to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
It looks like this is being shifted this way
Yes.
when you look at this. This
Yep.
intersection here.
Yes,
This
you're moving
looks
it.
deeper, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm just trying to visualize.
No, I think it's actually the right move.
because that's already a very shallow.
No, it's too
queue.
it's too tight.
And with the drive-through and so on, you want to have enough queue because for people coming in and out.
We thought this was adequate. I mean, this is 80 feet,
He's got 7 cars stacked on his
we
drive-through.
Our architect.
Well, I'm just thinking if the inflow and outflow of cars from a drive-through, they're coming back here and making right turns.
Yeah.
That what's there now is very shallow. So making this deeper is useful.
The only other comment I would have is that, really this is becoming another front of building for you, right? Because, and I know we've got trash and transformers and those kinds of things, but just make sure your architect pays attention to that.
Yep.
Because that's a front elevation
I think
from customers.
We have
in
one
the-
in the rear there.
Yeah, right now it's looking like a cinder block wall.
Yeah,
with,
so how your finished brick stops at the corners, and there's little things like that start to make it feel like back of building, and really that's front of building for if I'm a customer in your lot.
Right.
So I think you need to maybe challenge them to come up with something a little bit more interesting for that, and relate to that, because as you start to develop another building over here, and you're starting to make elevations, and you're making several fronts here.
Right.
And obviously you want it to be attractive from all sides, especially once you get customers into this lot here.
Right.
So I think that would be a suggestion I would have is, take a look at, I think the front and the side elevations looks great.
Okay.
But, if you can take a look at the back, and I know it's a challenge, but I think they can probably come up with some solutions.
The tents like the Dunkin' and the Chipotle, they require everything to be fenced in, brick enclosure. Dunkin' has a very specific, it's got to be on a concrete pad.
Right.
And it's got to have area for you to clean it up and the intake for water.
Yep.
So even if we didn't want, which we do want, but these tenants are very precise, and everything will be masonry or maybe with wood doors.
Okay. And then site lighting and landscaping. We've got ordinances for both. It should be, achievable to make that happen. So take a look at that, because there is some requirements in terms of green space and so on that you want to make sure that you get incorporated into this, and as well as the lighting, because as you start to do pieces, then we're going to want these new pieces. And I realize the rest of the center may not, be up to that standard yet. But as you start to do,
You like my shirt?
I just know that it was laid out and planned and platted many, many years ago
it was an
before
old
all these
interior
standards.
mod.
Right.
Before there was a landscape ordinance.
Before there was a landscape ordinance. So, but just so that that's something we're going to be looking at every
Right.
time, is that we're making an improvement.
We've
But
been-
again, it's consistent with what you want to do, which is to bring the whole thing up market.
Right.
So-
Well, Pat has asked at various times for us to put new trees along Harvard. He asked, and we did it. New slats along the fence, which weren't that bad at the time, but we put new slats in.
Great.
So we're very responsive to things of that sort. And I want to know what you want going in, so we could try to make it work and
Right.
make it quick. And,
Yeah.
This may seem like a no-brainer, but to go with what Robin's saying about the back, when you go for your signage, get for signage on the back
Right.
too.
Yeah. Mr. Gatto, shopping center expert.
I think it's a great start. I think it's a good project. I don't see, the back of the building's a concern, but it's always a concern. But it's just going to be a matter of screening, and maybe even create a drive aisle that strictly, that runs the full length of the building.
Yeah, and I would, green space too would be great.
Well, yeah, but then that would be more of where your trucks would drop off. So those would even be screened as that's going on. That makes the most sense. The thing that concerns me a little bit is the drive-through at the front. But I've seen tighter drive-throughs.
Yeah.
Tighter?
I've seen this. It looks tight, and you're showing 7 cars, but I want to say I've seen them. I've seen it with where they've squeezed drive-throughs that have they don't belong there, and this works.
Okay.
Yeah.
It works. It's you're maximizing your your space.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stacking. After, like you were saying about something else with this self-regulating, if you have to wait for 8 cars in a Starbucks, you're just going to move on. So this is, I think we have 7 cars, and I don't think many people are going to be waiting more than that. And it's also nice because it's really the morning, and the rest of the center, there's not much going on, maybe the grocery store. So this will be it for the morning. There won't be a lot of traffic issues up front at all. I'm talking to the doctors and dentists and such, but Chipotle's closed, or not closed. I don't think they're open until after their rush is off. So that's that's a real nice mix between a lunch and breakfast place.
I had a center at one point in time that was similar to this, with a proposed center in the back that never came, and it was in Hoffman Estates, and we did heavy landscaping from the garbage corrals towards the ring road. Heavy landscaping so that you didn't feel.
So then that screen,
it was the back, in addition to the brick screening, you had a lot of landscaping.
Yeah, and you've got the paved area that you could give up a little bit for some landscaping. You could put some space between. You could put some space between the front of the property and North Avenue, like you said, but also the back of the property and the existing parking. I mean, when I asked if you were losing parking, that wasn't a question thinking there's not enough. It was just, I'm trying to get a feel of how much is going away and how much more we can get rid of.
We can do that. There's a slight thing with you don't want to push this ring road, the ring road itself, back any further because it has to come back in for wake.
Right.
Oh yeah, because you have to get to that geometry, and so you're going to be limited on turning radiuses and everything else. So there's going to be an optimum point.
And there is actually that access road on the west end
that you got to get to.
You have to be lined up with. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Without eating up their parking.
Well, and we don't. We aren't the designers, but we understand there's going to be technical aspects like that are going to. But we're trying to give you what we see right now as
I'm hearing green. I'm hearing green.
Yes.
And I'm
not so much parking.
Not so much
One of the
back of the building.
Would it be possible to swing your drive-through more into the open area of the parking lot?
Well, you know what the problem is. You think about it. If most of these people most of them coming from the main access road, and they're going to come in, and then they got to
like this.
Basically take a left kind of into the aisle, the stacking aisle. So you don't want to. And then there's got to be through traffic. So they're actually kind of like turning into this through traffic. And if it were a busy time, that could be a problem for some drive-throughs. At lunch, if you have a big drive-through at McDonald's, you have problems with that. Since this is a morning really rush, and there's not really that much of a problem. So you don't want to. You can't leave that stacking cars that go back into that ring road.
Right. We were concerned about that with Sonic. I don't think I've ever seen it backed up into their.
And with
But that and the drive-through is a similar size.
Is doing with the garbage cans. And they're
I'm not a big fan of that.
The reason why
you don't think there's enough
fan of Sonic.
I think there's not enough.
Well, there's like two concerns I have with bringing around the back of the building. One is while you're sitting there, you're looking at every garbage can that belongs to the back of the center. I don't know if that's a great condition. I would make sure that you get a war between Dunkin' Donuts, who's going to have everybody parking back there, or stacked back there. They're going to make sure that everybody else, they're going to be concerned about the look of everybody else behind their place. And just, that's a nightmare. The other thing is, if you had to do any service back there, that means now all your service vehicles are parked in front of your building because they can't park there.
Well, you're saying they would if this is the building, we're speaking about the main shopping center, they would probably, there's room for them to be serviced behind the strip. That's where most of the guys will be servicing. There's the rear entrance, rear doors.
Yeah, there's rear doors.
And that's where the big.
I see that, but I don't
see parking.
It's my understanding that they're going to be stacked almost right up to the back of the building. So anybody, if you have an HVAC contractor, he's going to be parking in the front.
He can park in the sea of parking across the way.
He could do that, but he'll park in front. He's going to park close to the door.
Maybe he'll get a coffee on the way by.
But you know what I'm saying. So
There's not a lot.
it doesn't make a lot of sense with all that parking to bring your stacking around the back. I just think it's
Okay.
you're not going to be able to empty cans. You're going to have, people are going to be sitting there looking at every flaw behind the building while they're waiting for their coffee.
Yeah, well, I take your suggestion and beautify the rear of the building. I think my partner thought of some ideas of maybe these medians, the end of the parking lanes that you see here, maybe making those green.
Yes, that would be
And it's some
nice.
green there. Maybe we can even take some. The only question is I have to make sure there's adequate room for the trucks to get in and out before I get into my green thing. So maybe I can push the green back even further. So that would lighten it up for people behind there. The people in the drive-through, I think we just have to keep it tidy and make the back of the building nice.
Yeah.
I really don't know what else we could do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they would be interfering with the White Castle if you wrap them around the other way.
No, the White Castle
There's
is
if you look at
room.
this, look at the existing condition on the page before. See how you've got this. The ring road already comes way up into this parking area here.
Yeah,
the way they're proposing it, you can't go any further
Yep.
because you either eat into their parking and you have to get this access road lined up.
I see.
Otherwise, you wind
So
up with like a
He
right
really doesn't have a
angle.
choice.
You're saying you can't go into that ring road? I mean,
Well, he's already moved the ring road 80 feet.
He's proposing pushing it 80 feet north.
And that's what makes the problem
But if
on
you
the
push
other
it
end.
too far
Oh,
north,
right.
you start to get
then
that close to a 90-degree turn.
And then I actually have, there's easements requirements for White Castle.
Sure.
I'm sure.
I'm
there
allowed
are.
to
Sure there are.
relocate things, but I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're not supposed to do a serpentine to get in.
Yeah.
So that is a choke point. That something I can't control.
Right, you can't control it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is
Well, I
there
think-
parking right up against the back of the building at all?
There's not there's no, there's the sea of parking behind it.
No,
But
I
there-
mean right up.
No,
No,
no.
okay, I didn't think so.
No, that's, there's a lot of things going on behind the building, loading,
Right.
servicing. You've got the large, these are large trash areas that are fenced in or bricked in, so there's definitely no parking back there. Do you have any-
I think bricked in would be good.
Yeah, brick. Again, with our comments about the back and being another front facade. Anybody have anything about the drive-through bank that's
Yeah, do you want to go?
proposed?
Do you want me to give you a little?
I had one
spiel on
other
that?
comment.
Oh, did you? Okay.
The strip center. Did you, out of curiosity mostly, but did you run into any no change or no build area issues with your existing leases?
No, the leases actually allow for building. We did the Foreman Mills lease, allows us to build probably more than we'd ever want to build in front of them, and it kind of demarcates the area where we could build. The other leases were actually, they're old, some of them were very old leases, but they were done fairly well to anticipate this from happening. And then, remember there was a 2-story vacant bank here for a long
Right.
time. So,
just the bank gone looks so much better.
yeah, it was an ugly bank.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly I forgot about that. But so there's nobody expressed any visibility issues off of north with the
No.
new building out there. Do you know what your current parking ratio is?
The current parking ratio is about 4-to-1, but we have 1,200 parking spaces, and it's the building was demalled, so there's still there's going to be even right now there's probably 25,000 feet that's mauled.
That you can't
That I
lease.
can't now unless I move things around. We still have the ability. We have an ongoing ability to continue changing the shape of the tenancy and things, and we hope to be able to.
Yeah.
We're just, it's hard to find big tenants or not.
Yeah.
And this is kind of, it's nice, it's dense, it's highly trafficked, but it is not in a node of retail. So you're not going to get many big. You're not going to get your Sports Authority or guys like that.
Right.
They want to be in Bloomingdale. They want to be in Naperville. They're not going to, or Oak Brook. They're not going to be. There's not enough of them around here.
Other than that, I think it's smart. Seems like low-hanging fruit from a leasing standpoint. And Chipotle and
I'm able to do it. So that's I was really happy that Chipotle came in. I thought that would really that's the first thing you see when you go in the center, and it does have panache, even though it's American Mexican restaurant really, but it has a nice feel. It looks nice. We're going to design the outside. They're going to have seating.
Great.
Chipotle will have seating, and so will Dunkin', and we're working with Chipotle's design, so it looks like that's Chipotle corner.
Great.
And okay. Any other suggestions, ideas?
Maybe a Chili's.
Chili. Put Chili's on the other side.
Yeah, there you go.
I know that.
Yeah.
It's a problem they'd like to have, I'm sure.
So then you're good with that. We can just get into the PNC drive-through. So my partner and I have done some PNCs in the past, and actually it makes sense now. The banks are really getting away from the big branch banks now. It's real expensive. They don't really need it. Really need a couple. So the drive-throughs now are really the ATM is really what banks need. They need a presence. So they asked us. We contacted them. They wanted to be in our site, and they said there's going to be a problem with the parking. I said I'd have to talk to the Plan Commission. But so we played around with this a little bit. I think I gave Pat one copy, and then we actually changed it out. And we think this is the best place for it. It's up against Addison. It takes away about 10, 11 cars of parking, but that's the furthest. If you know the grocery store, their entrance is further to the east. So this is probably the farthest point away from them. These spots are never used, and it's a nice look. It's a modern looking building or ATM structure that they're putting up. And we talked to work with Pat to try to get. He wanted us to get enough queuing here. And again, I think for an ATM, it'd be self-regulated. I think we have 5 cars. Yeah. So I don't think people are going to wait more than 5 cars for an ATM machine. Right. And it'll just add more vibrancy. We're just trying to get people into the center. You'll see it off the hard corner. If you think about it, you'll have really good sight lines because the White Castle is a pretty small building. You'll be able to see it real clear. Someone will come in, get their money, and then they'll be facing the rest of the shopping center. So the more action we can get in the shopping center, the better. And doesn't really, it doesn't really spoil much. I think it's an easy one as far as we're concerned.
What do you guys think?
It's
a no-brainer.
I think five cars, you may never see that.
This is bigger than what I typically see for these things. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Pat, I brought another one in and it was like 3 cars, and Pat said,
Yeah.
Can make 5 cars. So I said yes.
He said, you got the real estate. All right. Yeah, I don't think there's any comment other than that looks good.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Any other general ideas? All right, gentlemen, I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. How about process? What's the next steps for these gentlemen and for us?
Because this would be considered a major change to the PUD, they have to start from scratch in terms of they have to come back with a preliminary and then a final PUD. Now, we allow people to combine both the preliminary and final depending on how comfortable they feel moving forward with some of their engineering. So
We'll be aggressive on that.
He's already down the path, I think. he's already committed. It's all
I'm all in on this. So, we could come in, we could sit with you guys, sit with you, maybe get feedback. I don't know if we get feedback along the road with you. We could, if this is a 90-day process, you say
the quickest, if you combined your preliminary and your final PUDs together, is probably a 90-day process.
Well, we'd like to do that.
Okay.
We'd like to go as fast as we can.
All right.
I think we're left behind soon. So.
Yeah. Okay. Look for a public hearing for a major change to the PUD in July, most likely.
Okay.
Is there ever any would it be all right to have a process where they would, get reviewed by you and maybe a couple commission members, or would that almost be considered a meeting?
That would be a meeting.
But I mean, isn't there a limit? Like if you had 2 commission members and staff, you could go through it. You can't have more than 4 or something.
No, you wouldn't be able to have more than 2 at any given time.
You could have 2.
But actually,
Any more than 2
that's
is
why
enough.
this pre-application conference works so well, is because he's not, the petitioner's not obligated by anything that gets said tonight. You guys are not obligated by what gets said tonight. You can be free flow thinking in what you're going to be looking for when it comes back with the actual submittal for the amendment. And that's what these pre-application conferences are for. You might have seen something on there that, gee, if they also had this would be much better. And it's better that he knows it before he even submits for his preliminary and final PUD, as opposed to trying to do it afterwards, down the road. So
Also, you're suggesting maybe we would see this in July. There'd be nothing to keep him from doing the same process in June. Saying, in the last month, we've thought about these changes. Is this what you guys had in mind? I'm not suggesting that he has to, but
I want to streamline the process.
it would be, at this point, unless he's got everything already done and ready to submit,
I'm
to
saying
meet the June meeting would be very difficult.
No, I'm saying another conference.
He's saying
if he wanted to say,
sure, absolutely.
we changed this. This is the whole site.
Correct.
Is this going down the right road?
Yeah,
That is correct.
we
He
definitely
could.
like to do that. We want your feedback as quickly.
Even if it's just in what you have in progress.
Right.
It could be marker on vellum.
Well,
If anybody's
it's already got better than that now, so I know. It'll be the next. Okay. Great.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Exciting project.
Yep. Great. Thank you. Back to our agenda. We have another discussion topic for this evening. It's discussion regarding 2 curb cuts per property. And I think there's in your packet, there was a discussion of text amendment, 2 curb cuts, and then there was a specific letter from Kenneth and Roberta Fleisick.
There you go.
Okay. So, okay. So this isn't a hearing. This is really just a discussion topic. So,
There we go. First of all, thank you for hearing our request to build a new garage and access it from the alley that extends behind it. My wife, Bert, and I have been living there since 2001. She has actually raised her family from 1980 on. Bert served as a trustee here for 8 years during some of that time. But we did a massive rehab on the property in 2001, and the last phase of that rehab has always been to build a new garage, because this garage predates 1960, and it is now in condition where it needs a new roof, it needs new siding, concrete all throughout the driveway, and the slab needs to be replaced. So we didn't want to do any of that when our desire was always to rebuild, put up a new garage. And that's why we're here today. Everyone has a copy of the presentation we put together? Great. As I said, our 2-car garage is over 55 years old. It needs new roof, new siding, new concrete. After extensive conversations with Patrick, there's a general understanding that we can build the garage, the size of the garage that we want. It will be slightly larger than what we have now, which is 22 by 20 roughly. And that's just to give us a little more storage space. It's not a matter of coverage to the property. However, it makes sense that we'll have to come up to current zoning guidelines, which I understand call for a 5-foot setback. We're roughly a few inches less than that, maybe a foot under that now. However, on the north side of the property, we're less, so we would have to move any new structure slightly south. The way the property lays out right now, that would create a problem in being able to get 2 cars in. It is very tight to get 2 cars in now. And if we That's with the building being as far north, the garage being as far north as it is. So if we move it a little bit further south, it's basically going to rule out the possibility of getting 2 cars in for any practical purpose. We had the idea of removing the side driveway and accessing the garage from the alley that is there. There is an alley there, and you see the original plat on page 2. There's a proposed approximation of what we would want to do on page 3, and on that page you can see to the south of our property indication of our neighbor's garage and how they currently and always have accessed it off the alley with pavement. If you go to the next page, you can see photos of our garage and our driveway. You can see the cracks. You can see in the third one patching on the roof that I did so that it would survive for the winter. But on the next page, you see our neighbor's garage, and in the first photo, you can see our garage in the background, the light-colored building. You see the garage, our neighbor's garage, and then you see in the foreground the pavement that goes off to Adams Street. In the second photo, which is a reverse angle, you're looking south down her garage. Her garage is on the right, and that is Adams Street crossing there. And the alley actually continues on the south side of Adams, where there are multiple homes that are using front parking pads as well as garage access there. So in our conversations with Mr. Grill, there wasn't a problem with doing anything. The problem was utilizing 2 curb cuts. And the point was made that no property can have 2 curb cuts, and I respectfully make the point that we're not trying to put 2 curb cuts on our property. We're using 1 curb cut that exists on Harvard, and we would remove most of the driveway back. We would just keep driveway up to the point of the house, just as a convenience matter. And not only would it be a matter of convenience for guests, but it would also maintain the current look of the entire block. Virtually every home on the block, maybe I think every home on the block, has a side driveway. So to remove a side driveway would look a little strange. By utilizing the existing alley cut that our neighbor has been using since prior to 1960, that will enable us to build a new garage slightly larger, maintain all the zoning, and then an added bonus is by removing concrete on the driveway, we will reduce impervious coverage to our property, which will help everybody's drainage. And the cracked concrete has actually caused problems of water seepage in our basement. We did some concrete jacking last spring, and that helped. But with the storms that we've been getting over the last few years, it's always a good idea to reduce concrete coverage. And if we're allowed to do this, we would probably extend downspouts through underground and then have them come up in the appropriate style of surface relief. And so the bottom line is we would get the new garage that we would want. We would increase drainage for the area for our neighbors, specifically and ourselves. And we hope that you'll allow this. And this is our next step in starting the permit process.
Boy, I got a couple questions.
Okay.
Patrick, the alley, let's say they got what they wanted, so the alley, who would maintain the alley? They're talking about adding on. So now, who maintains the part that you have to drive across to get to the part that
I do now. Our neighbor is a wonderful older woman, retired, and I've been doing all the maintenance with snow removal ever since we've started. Now,
my question is really like, whose legal obligation is it?
And is it a legal public alley?
It is a legal public alley.
Okay.
And what the village has done in other locations is entered into license agreements with individual owners for use and maintenance of those public alleyways.
Okay.
he have a license agreement, so it would be spelled out that if blacktop needed to be pulled up and replaced to a certain spec, you and your elderly neighbor would share the cost? I mean, how does that work?
Right.
Well, staff would have to review the existing license agreement with the neighbor to the south to ensure that there weren't any onerous obligations put on that particular person if we're going to enter into a license agreement with the FlySacs.
Okay, so that's one hurdle, is to get a licensing agreement so they can then improve the alley, because it's not currently improved.
Correct.
And so that would come along with that would be drainage requirements, correct?
Correct.
Storm drainage requirements, and maybe a tie-in to the city sewer. Maybe. We don't know. Public Works would have to weigh in on that and tell us what the engineering would be.
I mean, I just, like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, every time there's anything to do with the village, somebody always brings up the condition of our roads, so I'm saying, wow, now we're giving the village another strip of asphalt to maintain.
Well, but
so that's a concern of mine.
But if there's a license agreement, you can put the financial burden on the people that are.
And I would just like to know.
Yeah.
I would like to know for sure what that looks like.
So
who has the financial burden?
So let's say in the event that gets worked out and the alleyway is improved,
then
to meet specifications that Public Works would be happy with, and it's not going to cause a drainage issue for anyone else. It's going to drain and all that. And I think the big thing is that in order to do what you want to do, it requires a text amendment. It's not a variation for your property. It's a text amendment, which means we're changing the entire ordinance in regards to curb cuts to allow for this circumstance. So that's where it gets to be unusual. Typically when a homeowner has something, it's usually of a smaller nature and it becomes a variation request, and maybe there's a hardship that's been placed, your property is different than others, and in this case your property isn't really different than others, except for you have a alley access, which gives you the ability to enter a garage off an alley. And I think if the alley were improved, that to meet standards and everything in terms of you accessing your garage off the alley and a curb cut off the alley, I don't think any of us would object to that. I think what it comes into is a text amendment to allow 2 curb cuts, and even though you don't see that as being 2 curb cuts, it really is. And staff and plan commission, we have to apply these things as uniformly as we can to every property.
Certainly.
Because that's what our job is. So, I guess from other commission members, if if the alley is the village is good with the alley and accessing a garage and like he's shown off the alley, we wouldn't object to that, right? And I think that would.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm bought in on it.
Okay, you're not bought in on it yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But legally, he could do it now.
Well, he could do it now as long as he abandons the other curb cut.
Right.
As long as you abandon the other curb cut. And also you get the license agreement situation to work with the village and improve it.
And we had brought that up, and my wife and I discussed that, and only from an aesthetic point of view off of Harvard, that would look strange to have every other property on the street.
And when you say strange, I would say better, because then I've got green and I've got front yard. You heard green before.
Sure. All right. Yeah.
But because the other thing that I think you have to keep in mind is that the way that the ordinance works, and I realize, the village is laid out with detached garages and driveways that go in the front yard and they go all the way in the backyard and get to the garage. But the intent of the ordinance is that vehicle storage doesn't occur in the front yard.
Sure.
Vehicle storage occurs in side yard or rear yard. Because again, think about your neighbors and everyone. Generally speaking, everybody gets home in the evening and puts their cars away. You've got this nice, even though it's interrupted and there's a rhythm of asphalt, that you generally have green space in the front yards, and that's what people like to see, and that's kind of generally the vision for the village and how it was laid out. If we start having just driveways and parking spaces out front, disassociated with the garage, then it just becomes another vehicle storage area in the front yard, which is not something we want to encourage. So that again is something that the reason why we don't really want to do that. I totally agree with you that all your neighbors have something in the front yard, but it's because it connects.
Sure.
They have a detached garage. So that's kind of it, the other piece that goes along with this that the commission thinks about.
Right, I understand.
And even though you may not, and you and your wife may not park cars there, you just use it to run in and out, and then you're going to bring your car and put it in the garage. The next owner that has 5 and 6 cars, they're going to fill the garage, and then they're going to fill that, and we have a lot of that around the village too. Sure.
The neighbors just on the other side of Adams do exactly that. There are 2 houses.
Right.
They have a pad in front, but there's always a car. You're saying at the night you see a clear open window. There's always 2 cars parked in the front.
Photos 8 and 9 show that.
Yeah, and Patrick's going to speak up now.
They get to do it because the limit of one driveway, one curb cut, or vehicular entrance onto a street or alley shall be permitted for zoning lot came into effect in 1995. Those instances were in existence prior to that date. So they've become legal nonconforming. And so long as they maintain them and not expand them, they can keep them.
It's very tight.
That's great, except for the new one that we pointed out to you.
And he'll have to work on
it. The code enforcement is
and
waiting on that one.
Right. We staff has to enforce, but we have to, at the same time, we have to still try to hold everyone, and people go off and do things without permission and without coming, like you folks have come to us and have a discussion, and that's what we're
trying to do it right.
Exactly, and we appreciate that, and we don't want to sound like we're the bad guys on it.
We put too much money in this property to not do it right.
But we're trying to stick up for the village as a whole and keep our standards up as a whole. So I hope you appreciate that. We're not trying to be rough on you.
And Pat mentioned the idea of a text amendment some time ago, and the thought has crossed our mind that the wording could potentially help us because, as I understand it, a simple text amendment would basically allow a lot to take place in various parts of the village. Our particular situation is unique, and that might help word the text amendment because we are eliminating concrete that increases the drainage. So as a condition of being allowed to use a second pre-existing curb cut to an existing alley, that with pending licensing agreements, things like that, you're only allowed to do it if you are removing concrete and impervious coverage from your property and increasing drainage. So if then, rather than just...
I guess, so...
That was an amendment we discussed.
Yeah.
And I think we were not in favor of it.
No, well,
as a board. I don't remember. It was...
I don't think there's that many properties with alleys. I could be wrong, but I don't know how many that we have in the village. I guess
which would limit.
Yeah, which would limit. But so really, the reason to keep the paving in front is a convenience to park your cars there.
Yes, and it also gives us access to our front entrance. Right now, the front entrance is off of that driveway. Sure. And there is a chance that in the future we may need a wheelchair ramp. My wife was diagnosed with a neurological disorder where hopefully it'll never happen, but there is a long-term potential of a wheelchair ramp. So having that driving pad, that pad there would help in that eventuality. But currently our sidewalk, our front steps go down to a sidewalk which turns right and then joins in with that driveway.
Right.
So we would be able to maintain that as well.
How far is the back of the garage from the lot line?
I think the plat says a little over 4 feet right now.
4 feet 7 inches, or 4.7 feet at the corner.
Yeah, 4.1 from the back, 4.7 from the north.
So, how much bigger are you going to make it, and how much farther back is it going to go?
Well, from what we understand, it has to be 5 feet from all lot lines. So we would do that. And the question of how big, We'd either want to go 22 by 24 or 22 by 26, depending on, as long as the square footage works for coverage.
The one thing that I'm looking at is the power lines that are directly behind the garage. And then also, if they continue the alley, have we had any discussion with the fire department as far as access to be able to get to those areas?
They actually did that recently, 2 years ago. Our neighbors' power lines to the house were sparking where they touched a tree on their property. And actually, Bert's ex-husband, Dave Trotter, showed up and said hello and put out the fire and called ComEd. We're on good terms.
So okay. So but again, Vince, that goes to the whole, alley improvement has to work through Public Works. Mm-hmm. And really the only issue, I think that's a technical issue that if the city can solve, the village can solve for them, it does give them a lot more usage of their property because it's super tight with their balcony and everything right now.
The deck, you mean?
Yeah, with the deck and everything, it's just super tight. So, accessing off the alley, I think, is the right way to go. If I had the property, that's what I do. I still wouldn't be a favor of a text amendment for the curb cuts, just for the reasons that, we have a hard enough time with and people want to do circle drives too. And if they get 2 curb cuts, then they want to do circle drives and other things. And I've been up here long enough to see a little bit of everything, and I don't think you folks would abuse it. But we have to think about long term, and everyone else that can possibly buy the property and what they could do. And text amendments, we really want to be careful when we're doing a text amendment. So that's I don't know what you guys all think, so other commission members.
I guess I have less angst with a curb cut that's truly an alley. It doesn't feel like, versus the corner property who has used to have the attached garage.
Yeah, and I saw you had one in there. And
just down the street at Yale.
And I can't imagine, that never came before us. I would have remembered it.
Here's the issue, though. The property to the south, on the corner, they access off of the drive. Off the alley. Currently, their garage. This text amendment put in. You could try to tweak the wording so it doesn't allow certain situations to occur. But by doing this, then they could ask for a curb cut in the front yard and do the same thing in their front yard, where currently it's all green space. They could say, we want a curb cut, we're going to build a 2-car parking pad in our front yard.
Right.
And any place with an alley that doesn't currently have a front curb cut could theoretically request that, depending on the wording of the ordinance. But
the wording, I think, is the key.
And the text amendment would be, if you did make a text amendment, then the neighbor could just go get a permit.
Right.
Because the text amendment's
Correct.
Yeah,
and it's just permit.
Right. When this whole thing was going, I thought, just without knowing that it was going to be a text amendment, I felt like, you don't strike me like the type of person that'd have 5 cars in front and 5 cars in back, but, just like down the street from you, now the next guy, is doing exactly what we're trying to stop.
I fully understand.
Here's a question I have for Patrick. I'm looking at the lots around here. This alley is kind of a strange situation. It goes 3 lots to the north, only one of which it's finished behind. It goes 1, 2, 3 parcels to the south. It looks like it's gravel, probably. Is that correct?
There's actually a tree dead center in the alley on the south property or the north property line.
Yeah, I actually see that here.
Yeah, and it's a mulberry tree, so it's really.
Yeah. Is the alley to the south of Adams? Is that gravel?
Gravel.
Okay. So really, this lot's 50 by 125. That's. What's the average depth of a lot in Villa Park? Like mine's 190.
Well, that
What
I
I'm
think
saying
where
is,
you're heading for
where
is
I'm
to-
heading for
is vacate
this,
the alley.
Is this vacate the alley, or is
You guys
this
talk.
property small enough for a variance? Is that enough of a hindrance?
But let's go with the vacate the
But-
alley first. Did
but
you guys talk
vacating
about
the
that?
alley-
We discussed that a while ago.
Everybody on the whole block has to agree?
Right.
Because there is one parcel. to
No, I don't think that's true.
When the village vacates right-of-way, the owner on each half of that alleyway gets the right of first refusal.
Right.
They get that property if they want it, but they can decline it, in which case then the owner on the other side can choose to take it.
But if you did that, then you could push your garage further back.
Well, but then I think there's a problem with the power lines.
Yeah.
And we discussed that with ComEd, and they said they'd be happy to bury them, and it cost them about $10,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can get them to relocate it, but there's a fee attached to that.
I think it only cost us. We buried the power lines to our home from the pole, and it was only $500. So that wasn't a big deal. But to vacate a pole.
Okay, so the ComEd is using the alleyway right of way to have their run,
right?
To have their lines.
Right.
But it's actually on the property line.
It's on the property line.
It is on the property line.
So they would be
It's
the
on the property line. It's not in the
ComEd
center of the alley.
So the garage to push it back would be under the
Right.
lines.
Oh, so that
Right,
doesn't help
because
any.
if the village
Doesn't
were
help
to vacate the right-of-way, we would likely still require that an easement remain.
Yeah, for the power.
And you cannot put a garage over an easement.
Yeah, so it doesn't help.
No.
Okay. So we're back to.
Any other suggestions? How do we get a new garage?
Well, I
Before it
think
falls
I think
down. Because if it falls down, you're not going to let me put another one up.
that's right.
Right.
Right?
Well, I think
So is that a hardship?
Well, I think if you can make the licensing agreement work with the village for the alley and improve the alley and build a garage just like you've drawn,
Not a problem.
that's not a problem. It's just that you have to tear up the driveway in your front yard. That's the only bad news for you. But it's not that, because you get more grass then.
And eliminate the curb.
Maybe some flowers. Maybe a tree or a shrubbery.
Sidewalk in, how do we get to our front door?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have to
Yeah.
you
Put a
want to extend
sidewalk
your
in.
sidewalk to the
Can it
public
be
sidewalk.
A Cooper.
Or two sidewalks.
Cooper White.
About 8 feet apart.
Yeah, because otherwise, yeah.
We can't word a text amendment to limit the application of it?
It's let's put it this way: it's not something that the Plan Commission members do. Is to craft text amendments that are bulletproof like that.
I'm really good at it. You should see the contracts I write.
Yeah. Well, it'd have to be a variance for something else, right?
In this particular, variances require a hardship.
Yeah.
And it's a standard that is definable. And unfortunately, in your particular situation, you don't have a unique quality about your hardship that isn't applicable to hundreds of other lots in town.
If the garage were to fall down and we had to build a new one based on new zoning, current zoning, we would not be able to have a two-car garage. Isn't that a unique situation?
Well, but see, you
Or don't we have a right to a two-car garage?
see the problem is that your hardship is sort of self-imposed because of the footprint of the house and the size of your deck.
Right.
Yeah, but when we submitted our plans back in 2000, it was all approved under the understanding that we were going to put up a new garage. And so that was then, not now, I understand, but we would have changed things back then. And actually, in between then and now, I brought this idea forth, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe, And at that point, we were told that we wouldn't be allowed to build a larger garage because of the deck was counted as impervious coverage at that time. And now because, well, the deck has never changed, it's always been plastic over, gravel. So the rain gets through, it's not a problem. But I guess that has changed now, so that a plastic deck over gravel is no longer counted as impervious.
Okay.
So things have changed plenty of times. And unfortunately, over the last, since 1995, this one is hurting us.
Well, if there was a text amendment proposed, I would be open to looking at it. I mean, I would want it to be very restrictive, but I wouldn't say no right off the bat. I'd have to read it and see what I thought and get Patrick's input.
Very simply, to only allow village homeowners to use a second pre-existing alley curb cut when certain other conditions are met, one of them being that by doing so, the overall impervious coverage to their property is reduced.
Right. Yeah, like Robin said, I'm not.
And whether that is enforceable or whatever, that's a question.
Well, I think you have a few hurdles though. So I think how far have you gotten with I want to improve the alley, and
or my understanding is it's totally new. We're ready to do it.
Okay, so you've been to Public Works here at the village?
No, the conversations that we've had said it's not a big deal, though. Is that true? To improve it?
So long as you're willing to sign the license agreement.
That's without question.
Okay. And then how about engineering and documentation for paving and stormwater and all that?
Not the engineering's been done.
But he would have to do that. Mr. Price would have to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
All right. So and then there's just, so if he would have turned the plans straight into the building department here at the village, you'd take care of the rest, getting all the approvals from the village and everything else.
Yes.
Okay. So that's, okay. So it's really the text amendment that is the, okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and I'm, to get this straight, if you sign the licensing agreement and eliminate the front curb cut, you don't have to come back in front of us.
Correct. It's a matter of keeping the front curb cut.
So,
which it would only be under a last resort that we would want to eliminate that front curb cut.
yeah, and I would think that you would, if you're just looking to get a feel for where this board is at, I would need a real good reason other than convenience to allow that second curb cut.
It's got to be a better reason.
I mean, I'd almost say, not only should the curb cut be gone, the apron should be gone, the curb should be put back to a straight curb so it never looked like there was a driveway there.
Does the village cover the removal of the apron and the parkway material?
No, they don't.
No, you got
I don't.
Yeah, that would be your expense.
That's your expense.
Can I ask a different question then? How can we put a new garage, two-car garage, forget going in the back, forget the alley. We're going to leave our front curb cut, we want to put a new garage back there.
Well,
How can we do that and fit two cars in using the new?
That's a great question, and going back to what Robin said about a self-imposed hardship, you'd have to make an alteration to your deck, and then you could have your garage.
I still don't think you'd be able to make a cut.
Well, let's just put it a different way. Let's put it a different way. It becomes a variation request then, as opposed to a text amendment. So, what I'm saying is that your existing garage is falling apart, but it's too close to the property line. You come back to us and you want to build a bigger garage, but you want to keep the existing boundary that's the 4'7" instead of 5 foot, because otherwise I can't get into it. And you show us that the deck isn't getting in the way, self-imposed hardship, or the house corner or whatever. Then you could keep your driveway and you could get into the garage, and you could come and ask for a variation to maintain that non-conformance there that you have already. That's a different ask than a text amendment, if you follow me. It's just a variation then for a garage being too close to the property line.
I think if the deck was removed you still couldn't make that cut and get a car in there easily. It's such a tight,
It's
always been
tight.
a tight corner.
It's
Before,
tight.
before I even had the deck back.
Yeah, it's very
always
tight.
been tight. You can't really make that cut unless you have a tiny little car, and fit it in there.
No, we don't have a big it's not like we have a big SUV in
It's a big
No, but still, to fit a normal car in there, you really can't. And backing out is even worse.
Yeah, but do you see what I'm saying? The
Sure.
difference is as a variation instead of a text amendment.
I understand. What are the odds that variation would be approved?
Probably pretty high.
Higher than a text amendment.
Higher than a text amendment. Let's just put it this way: we've done a lot of garage associated variations because of situations not dissimilar to this.
Is there any chance we might be able to apply for and receive a variation that would allow us to reduce the distance, the offset from the north? Right now it's 4.7. Might we be able to be granted an offset of 3 foot, 3'7" or something like that, which would allow us to move the garage a foot north, which will make it much easier to get into that southern parking spot?
I think it's trickier because you're asking to change an existing condition to a new condition.
Sure.
And we have to start taking into account
Your neighbor.
your neighbor.
And what they have over there.
It's all grass.
Right.
And their garage is on their north side of their property as well.
Okay.
It would be premature for us to say that there's a better chance of one being approved than the other, but
It's
but
not
that's
out
a
of the-
trickier. That's a little bit trickier because you're not asking to maintain the same
Right.
non-conformity
Right.
on the
Right.
on the east and the north. You're asking to increase the amount of non-conformity,
Right.
which is trickier.
It's easier to sell
I
something that's
understand.
been there for 60 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even if it was a hardship in the beginning, because getting 2 cars into that has always been difficult, as Bert has been saying.
Yeah. No, we understand. It's very, very tight.
So we're okay. So I guess it's a rock and a hard place, dear.
Yeah, that's unfortunately what we're telling you.
Yeah.
Rock in a hard place, deck in a garage.
Yeah. Maybe we put an elevator
Even
in.
if we took the deck away, you still would be able
Right.
to get
Yeah,
the
no,
car in
no,
there.
I mean, it seems
Yeah,
like a
you're
tough
tight.
navigation. Yeah.
That's the driveway that has been there since I've moved in, and it's always been.
Yeah, you can tell by the conditions.
on the lot too.
Oh, yeah, because they added on.
I just want a garage that I can pull into
Right.
with ease.
Okay. Any other comments that we have? Any other?
Is there
Questions?
any? Can we present some wording for a text amendment? Is it out of the question totally?
You'd have to submit that to Mr. Gurrell.
That's up to either
And-
staff or the village board to
Right.
do by law, correct? And so you would have to communicate your wishes with them, and then you'd have to get somebody to agree to submit it.
Correct. And then it would get referred to us then.
No, it is not. It is not.
Can we work together on that?
Sure. That is entirely dependent really on the board. Your next meeting is not going to be until June. So,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to try to move this thing along because we're at 9:27. So, briefing on village board actions and related matters. Anything?
Probably the best thing is give you a quick update on 2 particular CMAP items that we're working on. One is the Homes for a Changing Region project. They're about to get the final draft back from the printers, and they're going to come back to us and present the final report. I expect that to be done sometime in June.
Are they going to come to
at our
a
meeting in
regular
June.
board meeting?
No, they want to come back to the ZBA.
Okay.
Or P&Z, I mean.
P&Z, okay.
And then next Friday, I will be down at their offices in Chicago interviewing 3 consultants to update the zoning ordinance, which will
Great.
start in earnest in July.
Fantastic.
That's when we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Has it been announced who we're interviewing?
Yes, it has.
And?
We are interviewing Duncan and Associates.
Uh-huh.
We are interviewing Ratio Architects, and we are interviewing Housel Levine.
Really? Ratio Architects. They have a planning and zoning group.
Yes, they do.
Huh. Okay.
Although very little work in the state of Illinois.
Right. Indiana.
So, yeah.
What was the third one, Patrick?
Housel Levine. John Housel and Devin Levine.
Okay.
They're pretty good size and well known in Illinois for this type of work.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's it for this evening.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner comments?
I would like to thank the umpire who called a very, very large strike zone in the rain tonight so that we could get a complete game in and I could be here in time for the whole meeting.
Okay.
With a White Sox win.
Okay.
I've got a comment too. This will be my third to last meeting.
Oh.
July will be my last meeting. Yeah, I'm going back to Wisconsin. I'm doing my MBA at UW-Madison starting in the fall. So
great.
We're moving back, and it has nothing to do with rolling up my sleeves for the new zoning in July. That's purely coincidental.
By the way. Well, we'll miss you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your service. Congratulations. But
Come back and visit.
I will, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, either that.
Okay. All
Second
right.
Thursday of every month.
Adjournment?
Then actually, given that announcement,
that bombshell.
I would like the board. You have a couple of months to think about this. Just at the board meeting this week, we had 2 commissions that dropped from 9 to 7. If Mr. Hanson, when Mr. Hanson leaves, we'll be down to 7 existing members. Would we want to consider dropping the number of committee members for the Planning and Zoning Commission to 7, and then we don't even need 4 for quorums?
I would say that brings
Yes.
quorum down to 4.
You know what, though? I kind of, boy, I'd love to get a lawyer back on this board.
Well, we can replace him with a lawyer. Well, I would too, but I think this quorum issue is a big, just like tonight we were struggling a little bit, and I don't see that being any better.
We've got 3 months to think about it.
Yeah.
So,
But think about it.
yeah.
I always liked all the input.
I do too, but I think it gets harder and harder to get 9 people that are, and you're sort of constantly in flux with 1 or 2 positions, but you still have to meet the quorum requirements.
Right.
So that's the challenge.
So it's either 9 or 7. It can't be 8, right?
No, you never want to have an even number,
Right.
because then it
Even though
breaks the
quorum
tie.
winds up to be even.
Even though
You
that.
need 4.5 for the quorum.
Is that someone phoning it in then? Okay. All right. Are we adjourned now then? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned.